Hey, today I want to take you through 3 blues bass lines that are abnormally funky. I'll see you inside the video. Hey, it's James here from eBassGuitar, and not so long back we released our long-awaited Texas Blues Jam backing track album. Now this is a unique backing track album made especially for bass guitar players inspired by the legendary world of Texas blues. It has 12 backing tracks inspired by artists such as Sonny Black through to Etta James, the Allman Brothers through to ZZ Top. Now what makes this backing track album different is we use our unique groove level system. And this means we supply 3 to 5 bass lines for each backing track, which get more musically interesting and more musically involved as you go through them. So what I want to do today is give you a taste of this and show you 3 bass lines from a track called Blue Rain, which is track number 7 on the album. Now 2 things just before we get going. If you're interested in grabbing a copy of the Texas Blues Jam backing track album, you can grab that by going to eBassGuitar.com/Texas, or I'll put a link in the description below. Secondly, everything we're covering today, I'm going to put in a completely free PDF, so you can grab the standard notation and the tablature for each of the examples we're covering today. I'll put a link in the description below. So first of all, I want to play you level 1 from Blue Rain so you can hear what you're aiming for. Then I'll give you some hints and tips on how to construct the bass line. 4. Rain is based upon a 16-bar blues sequence in the key of G. Now, interestingly, it starts on the 4 chord, which is the C chord, but we'll talk more about that in a second. But first off, I want to draw your attention to the groove which is running through it. It sounds like this: 3, 4. Now this is a bass groove which works largely with the kick drum, so make sure you listen to the drum part closely. So over the C chord, it simply starts off with a bomb, and then we rest for a beat, and then on beat 3 we play 2/8 notes. And to get the articulation in there, is I want you to play the first one short and then the second one long, like that. Then on the end of the bar on beat 4, and we have these 2 notes take us back to the C, and they are simply dropping down to a G, hammering onto an A, and then back to the G. So just loop that round. Then on bar 3 we go into the G chord, and it's the same thing largely, bum, bum, bum. But we can't get that pattern because we don't have another lower string. So what the bass line does is it jumps up to the 5 or the D, like that, bum. Then we have exactly the same thing. Bars 5 to 8 are 2 bars of G, 2 bars of C rather, 2 bars of G. Now this is where things get interesting. We then hit a B7 chord, and the same groove from bar 1 can apply over the top. So drop down to the lower string, get that. Now, this is where things get slightly more interesting again. When we hit the E minor chord, this is kind of the pinnacle of the blues sequence, of the 16-bar blues sequence. It gives it its shape. And we have this E minor chord. And what it does there is it plays lots of long notes. So you get the light and the shade from the short and the long notes in there. So really pay attention to that. Then we go back to the C chord. jump down onto the last line. Now to finish off the sequence, the last 4 bars are very simple. It's simply a bar of G, to bar of C, to 2 bars of G. Now what I want to do is play the whole thing through. Make sure you check out the concepts that we've just discovered and listen to them in action. 4. So let's move on to level 2. And what we've done in level 2 is we put more of a Motown funky inspired bass line to this one, and it works brilliantly. You might kind of hear references to James Jameson, what's going on in here. So let me take apart the fundamental bass line which is running through this, and it's 1 bar long and it sounds like this. Bum. So what that is simply a quarter note on the beginning, dong, and this is what puts the funk into it. Right at the end of the second beat, on the last 16th note, we hit the octave. So bong, then right at the end of the bar, classic what's going on stuff. So we hit the A to the G to the A again. And now that pattern and that shape will run through all of the major chords within this tune. Now what happens when we hit the minor chords or the 7th chords is we need to adjust this a little bit. So when we hit the B7 chord in bar 9, what we do is this. Bum, like that. So the rhythm stays exactly the same. We hit the low B, the octave B, we drop down to the 5th, the F sharp, then we hit the flat and 7th, then back to the 5th there. And that flat 7 gives it a slightly more bluesy sound. We can use the same pattern when we hit the E minor. But what we've done there is just added a few little passing notes to take us to the C chord, like so. And then the fundamental pattern will run through the rest of the chord sequence to the end. So listen to that idea, really appreciate that 16th note right on the end of the second beat. So we're halfway through the lesson now, and if this concept is piquing your curiosity, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com and check out eBassGuitar.com/Texas, or click the link which is in the description below. Secondly, we release a lesson every single week on the eBassGuitar YouTube channel, designed especially for beginner to intermediate bass players. If you want to be the first to know when a new lesson goes live, make sure you hit the red subscribe button, which is somewhere around this video. Finally, let's look at level 3 so you can see where these ideas can go. Now we have got one fundamental bass line which really ramps up the energy. It sounds like this: 3, 4. this is fundamental major pentatonic forward position, and it's a great bass line to get under your hands. So let me show you to it. So it starts off with a C. Just after the second beat, we go into this pattern. We play the D and the E on the A string, and then we go into two short notes here, the G and the A, like that. Then to finish it off, we have this pattern of 8th note and 2 16th notes, which is the G, the E, and the D, like that. And that takes us back to our root note there. So play the bass line all together. And again, that works over all of the major chords. Next, let's look at the bass line, which works over the B7 chord, and you practically got everything you need. So what we do here is we play the B, and then we drop down to the open E, F sharp, and then we play two open A's, back to the F sharp, then back to the A, like so. So I put the whole bass line together. Now, what I want you to notice here is that the rhythm stays exactly the same. We're just changing the notes within it to suit each different chord type. Now, you have pretty much everything you need to play the whole of the sequence through. So let me play you level 3 from beginning to end. So that's it. I hope I planted some great bassline ideas in your head for this track. So to wrap up now, I want to show you where these ideas can go, and I'm just going to have a jam over the top so you can see the sort of things that I would naturally play over this chord sequence. Guys, that's the end of today's video. If you've enjoyed it and love concepts such as the groove level system, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com and check out the Bass Lab Plus, because there is a ton more concepts using exactly these ideas, so you can see how to build up and ramp up bass lines so you can have a ton of fun with them. I'll put a link to the Texas Blues Jam backing track album below, and I'll also put a link to the Bass Lab Plus so you can check that out too. Cheers, I've been James from eBassGuitar.com. Catch you next week.